today we'll talk about some positional, what it's like to play a positional game. And this game is against a very strong world-class player that I played, Grandmaster Jaan Ehlvest. He was as far as I think 4th or 5th highest rated player in the world at one time. So very strong player, and I managed to win this game in a very positional style, and you will see, and I will be asking you to find some of the moves. So d4, d6. I'm playing with the white pieces. Okay. So he played d6, and since he knows I'm not an e4 player, so I probably won't play this move. And I went knight f3 and f5. Who can tell me why is he playing a Dutch defense via this move order? What is he trying to avoid by playing via d6 and e4? If you remember, I showed the game before, when opponent plays f5, the Dutch defense, I normally go knight c3, e4. And this is very, very aggressive way to play, to fight for the e4 square in the Dutch defense. By playing d6, knight f3, he got to the f5. Now no longer knight c3, e4 will work, because if I go knight c3, he simply goes knight f6, and he's controlling the square. So I cannot get what I normally play against the Dutch defense. So by this tricky move order, he basically stopped me from playing my usual setup against the Dutch defense. But again, I can also play the classical setup against the Dutch, which I did in this game. So I decided to play now c4, g6, g3, knight f6, bishop g2. This is the most popular way to play against the Dutch. And here I played an interesting move here. Normal, most popular is knight c3 again. You can play d5, but I didn't play those moves. Can you find the next move I played in this game? My plan is just to develop my pieces solidly, bring my rooks into the game, and try to play e4 in some point. This is my ultimate goal here. After the development, I want to play e4 and open up the e-file. Well, if you go bishop g5, not so effective, because he just comes in knight e4, and he's putting pressure. Okay? Okay. So that's why, what can you do here to just get your development? Knight c3, this will be the typical setup. You know, one of the main ideas Black is trying to do is to play e5 here. And oftentimes what they do is they play c6, queen e8, and they play e5. So I need you to find a plan that will prevent that. That you will have some more control of the e5 square. So he cannot just play that. It's an idea, but...
How about b3, then bishop b2?
Correct. That's what I played, b3. Because you see, when you put the bishop on b4, it's like you're putting your piece not on a very good square. But yes, you're trying to start, but it's not a very good square for the bishop, because right now it's biting, on this chain that it's not going to do anything to me. So that's why I play b3 here, okay? Because I want to go bishop b2. So he played c6, bishop b2, and now he plays a5, trying to gain some space here. I have a question for you. Where you think I should develop my knight now? I have few options. I can go to c3 and d2. Which square is the best? D2, right? Since you already did the fianchetto of your bishop, you don't want to put a knight here to block it. Okay? That's why you want to put it on d2 to make sure you have more control on the e5 square, because now you got 1, 2, and 3, right? You got 3 pieces that are controlling. So it's, it's going to take some time for him to be able to play e5 because you got that under control. Okay? So you really got that under control. Now, after I played knight b2, he goes knight a6. It looks a little bit strange, but this is, they play like this. This is playable. So the idea is to go knight b4 in some point to attack the queen, and also knight c7 is a possibility. Now, which accurate move you need to play here first? Because my ideal setup here is to go queen c2, and then rook e1 and try to play 44. This is what I like to do. A3, correct. You take time to play a3 first because you want to control the b4 square, okay? Now he goes bishop d7, developing. Queen c2, right? Following it up, developing now the major pieces. If you can see probably that I'm just following the very important 5 steps in this game. Controlling the center, developing my minor pieces first, castle, now developing the major pieces before trying to do anything aggressive. Okay? So it's very important that you do that also in your games, to follow the steps. Now he plays c5. He's attacking my center. And now, how should I try to react to this move? I can try to push, I can take, or maybe I can do also something else. So but what do you think is the best way to react to c5 move here? And what's the idea behind e3?
If he takes, you recapture the e pawn, maintaining control of the e5 square.
And look at the e file now. I can simply even double up my rooks on e file, and then I have a very nice pressure. So that's why by playing d5 you already commit. And at this point, at the early stage of the game, I didn't want to commit yet. And this is something you should try to do also. When you push the pawn, you already commit that you can't go back anymore. By playing on e3, I could still play d5, but I keep the tension. Because taking it's not good for him, because I take and I put my rooks on open file. So I want to keep the tension here. That's why I play e3. Now he goes queen c7. Now, what do you do now? Which piece you want to develop? Which rook? Specify, yes. So rook fe1, correct. I went rook fe1. He goes rook ae8. And as soon as he plays this move, he has a threat, actually. It's not a threat of winning a piece or anything, but it's a strong positional threat. And I have to do something. So let me know if you see the threat here first. What is black trying to do after the move rook ae8? Why did he play this move?
He probably wants to go e5, e4.
Exactly. He wants to play e5, and now he has enough control on the e5 square. For example, if I would play the natural looking move, he would push e5 and takes. He can take. And now, yes, I can take on e5, but then I lose 2 pieces for a rook. And in this type of positions, it's better to have more pieces than a rook, because it's not an endgame where your rook is going to be more active. So lots of pieces on the board. So I cannot really take. And if I don't take, he pushes e4, attacking my knight. Okay? So that's why I don't want to allow him to play e5 now after rook ae8. So what can I do to prevent that now? Absolutely. Now d5, see? That's why I didn't commit earlier. Now I can play this move, d5. Because I already see kind of what is he trying to do. He's trying to, play on an e file. So I play d5. And now he plays a4. The point is, if I take, he's just going to go queen a5, and he's going to pick up the pawn back. And now my structure is a little bit loose, and I'm losing time. He's kind of deflecting me from my main idea. And what is my main idea in this opening after I set up my pieces like this? Yes?
Play e4.
Correct. Yes. I'm trying to play e4 here, because after e4, yeah, you never want to put the rook behind a pawn like this and leave it there, because it's just not effective. So my idea is to play e4. And in this position, I don't want to waste time on taking. That's why I simply went for it right away. Okay? e4. He takes.
I think in knight e5 is fine.
Let's think first. Let's think for a few minutes, okay? Because we don't want to rush. We can take right away. We have some other moves, but we want to think. In a positions like this, it's very important moment here. So we want to make sure we don't rush. So you have two options here that you need to consider.
I prefer knight g5.
Why do you prefer knight g5 over knight takes e4?
Because you're getting a bishop active that way.
Aha, it's very good. This is actually a very typical move. When opponent takes, it's not like you have to take right away. You actually move the knight, and then now you have a choice of which piece you want to capture. You can capture with a knight, you can capture with this, so you have many ways to capture. So that's why you go knight g5 here. It's more precise. Now he goes queen b6. Activating his queen and putting pressure. Now I cannot take with this knight because he takes on b3. So what would be the best move here for white?
There's some pressure on your queen side.
Yes, he does have some pressure here.
How about take with the knight on g5, and then if he trades knights, take with the rook, they can double the rooks on the d5. Oh, I don't know. Bishop f5 counts.
That's one idea. See, he wants to make me take with uncomfortable way this pawn.
Yeah.
It's lots of subtleties here. So he's trying to, complicate the position here. But here you can actually avoid all that by playing a precise move. One precise move, and you just avoid all that.
King to h1.
The problem is he always wants to take, eh?
Rook up to e3.
Well, but then knight g4 jumps in and tricky, eh?
I want to play b4, but it's like...
Before he can't. He takes, and also this f2 is going to be hanging.
I want to.
It's a difficult move to find, I think, because you don't think that...
What do you want? No.
I think that...
He takes, because
Well,
I don't want to go to endgame, and if I don't want to take back with the knight because he's going to go bishop a4. So I'm kind of,
okay.
Well, what I was thinking is maybe you take the pawn on a4, and if you take the pawn. I mean, if he can play queen a5, but he's already moved his queen, so maybe he's wasting a little time.
Very good. That's a good way of thinking, because he already moved the queen once. Now I can solve all the problems, all this pressure, by just taking it. Okay, by just taking it. Well, but earlier his queen, earlier, but he moved. Now it's a different position. We were trying to avoid that earlier, but you know, position changes, and evaluation and what you need to do, it changes as well. So what you were trying to avoid few moves before might be okay for you to do now. Now I took, and now I can just simply recapture. So he goes e3, gives up the pawn. He knows he's going to lose it, so he gives it up. I take rook takes c3, and now he goes bishop takes a4. Little tactic that he's trying to do. Yeah, and I don't want to lose the bishop on b2, because now, you know, his queen is going to get very active. I can't just take here because he takes my bishop. And now his queen is very active. So don't want to get under the pin. Don't put the knight and pin yourself. Okay? So don't want to do that. So you have something better here. You need a calm move here. Yes, he did some tactic. It doesn't mean like we have to panic because he just had this idea. We just need to find a solid move, and we still have pressure. In fact, b file is something I can use also in the future, because you know I can get rook b1 with the tempo. Question is where? C1, because c3 will run into trouble. Who can see the trouble? Discover attack via h5 though, because other discover attacks will lead to a checkmate on g7. So you need to go to h5, and now only knight h5 will work. No other discover attacks. Okay? So that's why we go knight h5. So queen c1. Now he goes knight c7. I think we should try to get all our pieces developed. Okay? And we have a piece right now that is not well developed. So you bring that piece into the game. See? One more tempo, because he needs to move the queen. So we get the rook into the game with the tempo. It's always nice when you can do that. Now we have all the pieces developed here. So now we need to find some moves to improve the position. That's a very interesting move. I could have played that move. That's very interesting. But here, if you look at the position, besides the bishop, bishop h3 is an interesting move. There is another piece that I can try to improve here. Which piece is that? Well, think. A little bit think. See, I spent some time here. I mean, because it's important to see where is the weakness and how we can try to put more pressure on the weakness. Yes?
96.
Possible, but if you look at the position here, whose knight is more active? My knight on g5 or his knight on c7? Okay? So you don't want to exchange your active piece unless you really have to. Okay? Because it's, you want to go knight e6, but you have to see, his knight is just defending. So let him at least play h6, you know, weaken the position, and maybe then we can do that.
Queen e1.
Correct. Queen e1. Queen is not doing anything here. So you go here, and you now pressure here. And now he plays h6. See? He's weakening his position. Because, you know, who wants to play a game where his opponent knight is here? Threatening and controlling. So now he goes, question is, what do you do here? You have a choice. But you need to make the right decision here, because you can lose your advantage if you make the wrong decision.
No to e6.
I can go to e6. What are the candidates moves here?
Well, 96 or
96.
knight to e4, right?
Knight to e4, knight to f3. Knight to f3 is too passive. We probably don't want to do that. So you need to choose between 96 and 94. How do you determine, like in this position, how would you determine which move to make here? What would be your thinking process here?
Well, I would think knight to e6 makes more sense because otherwise you're blocking your rooks.
Okay, but is knight on c7 a good piece? The most important is knight on c7. Is it a good piece?
Not
I
really.
want to play knight to e6 because my bishop on d2 might.
But you're not planning to take with the pawn, are you?
I might take with my pawn because.
But then what about the backward pawn? No more backward pawn.
But then I can win a pawn on d2.
He's got like some tricks.
Not sure how you're going to win a pawn. He goes bishop c6 back. And look at that. He'll exchange your bishop now. And some jump in with knight g4 coming up too. Okay, don't want to, you know. See, Julian, this would be a typical, this is an error. Because look, you got two pieces on open file. Semi-open file, yeah? If you take like this, you immediately deactivate these pieces. Okay? So it's a nuance, you know, but you have to realize in a game not to do that because now your whole idea of doubling up here and putting pressure is gone. You might need to find a way to now relocate these pieces because they're not going to be effective here. And this pawn is, it's a good one, but a little bit tricky in the endgame because his king is very close to it. Can simply come up and take it. So some of the endgames we have to be a little bit extra careful because he could just simply come up and take it. Like some king and pawn endgame, king g7, king f6.
Knight e4.
The move is knight ge4. Because let's leave the bad piece there, okay? Let's try to exchange this because at this point I'm aiming for attack. I'm aiming for attack here. That's why I want to leave this piece here on the queen side and exchange the one on the king side so I can try to attack him. Knight g4. White is slightly better here. It's nothing huge here. Slightly better. Bishop d7 played. And how do we proceed now? What should be the next plan here for white? He played bishop d7. Yes.
So earlier you said, did you say you want to exchange those knights? or-
Absolutely, absolutely, because I want his king not to have so many defenders.
So you actually want to exchange? It's not just.
No, I want to exchange this knight. I want to exchange this knight, not this knight. This knight, you know, let him be there for now. Take the knight, correct? Now he doesn't want to take with the bishop because then his king is going to be really alone. So he takes with the pawn. Now it seems like we cannot move the knight from d2 because we are too tied up to the c4 weakness. It seems like we know because we really want to play knight e4, but then the c4 pawn is weak.
What about protecting that with the bishop?
It's possible, but then he exchanges the rooks, he goes rook e8, and almost nothing left for my advantage. The next move is absolutely necessary because if he takes only 3, goes rook e8, he has lots of pressure.
Just thinks he's going to get control of that file no matter what.
Not if you find the next move.
Yeah.
Find the next move, you have more pressure on his position.
Oh, I have an idea.
Maybe queen up and then rook to e1.
Queen up where? Here?
Yep.
The thing is, he also wants to play. He also wants to play b5. So it's not like he's just sitting there for a defense. He wants to play b5. Queen up. The problem is he takes. And see, he's liquidating, and now he's getting the file. and I don't want liquidations here, and give him the e-file. Can you use your tactics here?
I have this weird move in mind.
Can you use your tactics to accomplish what white needs here?
What happens if rook e7?
Rook e7. The problem is this move doesn't threaten anything.
That's a good problem.
It's a nice move, but it doesn't. What is your threat? You can't take my bishop. You lose your queen. So
I guess that doesn't matter.
I did this move later on in the game, a little bit later. It does look, but yeah.
He doesn't have to take it.
If he takes it, that might be good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you do here, huh? Which piece we can try to improve in this position?
G2 bishop.
G2 bishop, yeah, but we can't go to h3, and bishop f1 is too difficult. My main problem is he wants to take. What can you do to stop this exchange, huh?
Bishop e4.
f5, perhaps. Losing tempos, yeah? Losing tempos.
We'll stop it. We're going to exchange for one move, though.
For one move, yeah, but then we lose tempos. Remember, chess, it's all about tempos.
Knight to f1.
I love these moves.
How about tactically, huh?
We got to find this move. It can't be that hard.
What can you do to stop rook takes c3?
Well, you can take his rook, but that would be giving up no.
Okay, but yeah, we could, but that's not good. Yeah, he gets the e-file, and there's no advantage here. You need to calculate 4 moves here, and you will realize that this particular move works.
King h1.
It stops, right?
See, you never want to get to the point in your game where you're not sure what to do and you just make a move. Yeah, like you always, even if it's difficult, you don't want to just make a move. Okay? Like you don't just close your eyes and make a move, because that will be maybe a blunder. Unless you're running out of time. Then you have to move. Yes?
Well, the rook on b1 isn't doing a whole lot right now. If I put it to c1 and bring it up, that's 2 moves, however, to protect that rook. It looks
But the problem is he takes our rook.
the first one.
See, you could do that, but the problem is he takes the rook, you take, and then he has the file.
Yeah.
And not so clear why we are so much better here. We might not be better. I don't want to exchange the rooks.
I think can you just play knight e4 immediately?
Aha!
See, we're really calculating. It's
Because,
what you-
Well,
Bishop e4.
but let's see, what you need to calculate here is he takes the pawn, right?
Yeah, but then you have
Then you take,
exactly.
rook takes. Yeah, but now you don't have to go really deep here. Because look at this knight. This knight is very active here. So you just take back. Now look at this. He's got this pawn is hanging, this pawn is hanging, and this queen is hanging. A lot of things hanging for him. And position is open now. And your bishop's going to be very powerful. Okay? It's an open board. Yeah?
I guess we got all confused after knight takes pawn, so that's,
Knight takes pawn here.
no, or for black.
Well,
Okay.
Okay, so he can't just take now. This is very important. Knight e4. Now he plays b5 because he wants to get rid of his weakness and try to create some counterplay. I took. He plays bishop b5. Now you need to find another pawn here. Now you need to regroup your pieces here. Okay? Like there is a piece, for in particular the rook on b1 is not doing much. So can you regroup your pieces here, and because that way you will be more active and you will have some more threats in the future. And by the way, the d5 pawn is hanging. Yes?
Well, rook d1, protect the pawn, and work towards reactivating that rook.
But I don't want to have a rook defending just a pawn. You know, I mean, and then I'm not very strong on e-file. I would like to get my rooks on e-file, to be honest. Because then I can, when I move my knight, I can threaten some entry, you know, like rook e7 and ideas like that.
Bishop c1.
Well, bishop c1, can he take this one? He might take that one, not so clear. But no, bishop is fine here. Yes, I want to move my queen. Exactly. I want to move my queen.
d2.
d2, perfect. Queen goes to d2, protecting a pawn. Good. Now he goes rook b8. And now he wants to perhaps move the bishop and attack. So now I will need to bring my rook to e1, right? Rook be1. Knight e8. He's defending the position. He's holding it on. In a positions like this where you feel like you've kind of improved your pieces, but there is no way to break through, what do you do? How do you create some weaknesses around the opponent's king? What idea you use?
Look for all queen sacrifices. Then rook sacrifices.
Well, we are not at the point where we're going to be looking for sacrifices at this point. It's too early. This is the early stage of the attack.
How about a pawn break?
Pawn sounds good, but not break. Pawn push, yeah? Because in a position like this, when opponent kingside pawns are loose, these pawns are loose, right? So what can you do to create some more holes that you can enter later on with your pieces here? What's a typical way to attack this position? h4, of course, h4. Threatening to play h5. Do you use this kind of ideas in your games?
I try, but it never works.
See, some people like to use this in every game. Every game they push h4, regardless of you need to do it or you don't need to do it.
It's really powerful.
But here it's a necessity because we weaken the position. Okay? h4, he goes bishop d7. Now his bishop retreated, and now I would like to improve my light square bishop. And I can do that with a tempo. Attack the queen. Now he goes here, attacking my bishop. Where do you want to put this bishop? You could go to a1, but can you put it on a more active square instead? Of course. So you have some more options, right? On a1, you're just in a corner, not doing too much. Here you have some other ideas. Bishop c3. Now he goes rook a8, attacking my weakness on a3. Now we defended. Queen c1, rook f7. Now, this is a little bit difficult game, a little bit maybe to understand, but it's lots of maneuvering going on here. You know, I'm trying to outmaneuver him. He's trying to improve his position. White is much better in this position because his king side is going to be weak now. But now, this next move, it's very important. There is a piece you have here that it looks very good, but you can actually improve this piece to a better square, and this will give you chances to activate your other pieces. Which piece I'm talking about? The knight. Knight is a very nice looking piece here, but unfortunately he's attacking, but the opponent is defending. And this knight is preventing us from activating our rooks. So we need to improve the position of this piece. Where?
You need to get the c4.
Absolutely. And a structure like this, remember, a structure like this, if you can get the knight on c4, it's always good. Because you put pressure on the weakness. Okay? And your knight cannot be chased around. It's like an outpost. Cannot be chased around with the pawn. Knight d2. At this point, my opponent was getting more and more uncomfortable. So he was spending more time, and he got into time trouble. Knight c4 comes in. f5. And now, you know, he realized h5 is coming, bishop d3 is coming. See, this was a very important maneuver. See, to weaken his position. So he said, okay, I have to try to exchange the bishops at least to get something going. Absolutely, rook e7, correct? Now he goes bishop f8, trying to exchange my rook. And now let's see if you can find the best move in this position. I really like this move. This is a favorite move. My favorite move in this game. So it feels like his king is so loose here. I should be able to do something to take advantage of the weaknesses around his king. But it's not so easy. h5. Well, but the problem is he just went here and he's attacking me. So I have to do something with the rook first. I have to do something with the rook, but I can't just push yet.
You maybe play rook e6. Maybe?
Rook 7 e6.
Right.
Correct. So this is an idea I've learned. I've studied a lot of Petrosian games. And in his masterpiece games, he used this kind of ideas where he puts the exchange, but when opponent captures, then his pieces are entering in. So it's a very important idea, rook e6. And now, I'm attacking the weakness. So he took. Now, how are you going to capture back here? With the pawn or with the rook? What do you think?
Still the coin.
Rook. No, but pawn take is also, it's interesting. White is still better after taking with the pawn, but of course I take with the rook because I go for the attack here. Now, you will see how useful was to play h4 move earlier, because when he plays now king h7, what do you do? To weaken his position more now. See, if your pawn was on h2, you couldn't break through, but thanks to the h5 now, I'm breaking through his position now, threatening to take on g6. He's forced to react. Taking looks very bad. So he plays g5. Now, why did we bring the bishop on f1? See, all the moves for white is connected, because I was expecting something like this may occur. So now I bring this piece into the game. Bishop d3. He's up exchange, but his pieces are extremely passive. Now I'm threatening simply to play g4 and pick up on f5. It's not like I'm winning immediately, but it's coming there. So g4 is threatening now. He goes bishop g7. What do you do? Push the pawn. Now he's afraid his king is here, so he goes back here. Take back with the bishop. Now all my pieces are extremely active. My knight, my rook, my bishop. And now I'm threatening to play bishop g6. Attacking the rook, the knight. And he can't do much. So he decided to sacrifice the exchange just to take away the strong bishop. Rook takes f5. This was, by the way, the 40th move. So he just made time control. He was in time trouble too. So I took back with a pawn. And now he goes queen f7. Looks kind of threatening. He wants to pick up the pawns. Now, what do you do here?
Maybe F6. F6, and then he picked on, and then
Yeah.
takes,
Well, f6 he could take.
and then takes, wait, what is he gonna take then?
Probably with the knight.
And then knight takes,
Okay, but now some queen h5 jumps in. I don't want to allow any counterplay. Yes.
How about exchange the bishops to deflect his queen?
We could do that, but could we pin the piece first?
Yeah.
Could we pin him? Huh? Could we pin him? Now we want to threaten f6. Now it's just winning. So he has to take, correct? Now he wants to go queen g4. So what do you do first? To stop that with the tempo, knight e3. Now he has to go back queen d7. And who can find a move after which he resigned? It may look like a premature resignation, but in fact, he just saw that 2-3 moves later he's going to get checkmated, so that's why he resigned. Now, when you have a pressure like this, you don't want to release the pressure.
I think like
Queen b2 is a move that he resigned after. My threat is here to take on g7. He takes, I go knight f5.
that was my idea, except I was
So let's say he goes here, I take, he takes, knight f5.
But my question was, what if he plays?
We'll get to, I think I know what you're going to ask, yeah. Now checkmate. Okay? So he can't do that. So now the question is probably what to do after this, right?
Exactly.
He didn't play this move, he resigned, because this is losing. Who can find a line, winning line here? Who can find a winning line here?
I guess with knight f5 then.
No, knight f5, queen takes. Rook b7. Queen mate is a possibility, maybe. Yeah, you have a rook g7 maybe there. There is a very nice finish in one of the lines there.
Wait, can't you exchange the bishops then a fork is? No, never mind.
Correct?
Oh. Well.
Yes.
You got the first move. Where's the follow-up though?
Queen d8 check.
Now he can play two moves. King here or here. This loses because we just take, he's pinned. If he goes here, what do you do?
Knight f5.
No,
No, no.
takes with, queen takes with check.
Wait. No, knight f5, queen takes rook. It's queen takes. Am I wrong?
I
You
think
can't
you-
take with the knight,
I
otherwise-
think if I tell you what you need to do, you'll find it quickly.
You can just take deep one.
Well, you could take the deep one and probably win.
It just seems like if knight f5, you can't play knight takes because of queen.
Okay,
queen g8.
don't rush it. Just think. Just think. Can you do something spectacular?
Queen b1.
Rook takes pawn check.
Very good. Again.
Good job. Oh yeah. Yield.
What's the follow-up?
Ooh,
See this scenario? Checkmate. Excellent. So he can't go here now. So he has to go here. And now, what do you do? What do you do?
Now knight to f5.
Don't rush. Why you want to play knight f5? Can I just take it? Okay, you probably win with queen g8, yeah. But better. Yes?
Queen b2.
Better.
Queen
Queen b2, actually, I go back to g8. It's the same position.
queen h8.
You get behind it, okay? Remember, you get behind it. This is a very important idea. Your rook is in. Now get the queen behind it. Because now he can protect properly. He takes, checkmate, check, checkmate. Okay? Well, knight black just takes. So it leads to a checkmate, as you can see. Okay, so that's why after queen b2 he resigned here, because he can't do anything. So it's a very positional game where lots of maneuvering took place here. Okay, but the fact that my king was safe and his king was weaker, this was very important. So now I want to go back again to the moment where I played h4. When you're in a position like this, where opponent king is a bit loose, the structure, so you want to try to think of this idea, h4, h5, especially if he has played already h6 move or f move, because then if your pawn reaches on h5, it will be very strong. Okay, because then if he takes, it's weak, and if he pushes g5, it's weak. Okay, so remember this idea, h4. Now bishop is not very good on g2, so we improve it with the tempo to bring the bishop because it was under attack, defending the weakness, and now transfer the knight to c4. Once my knight was on c4, I felt like I'm close to be winning now, because now bishop d3 is coming up too. You can see all my pieces now aiming towards his king. And where is his counterplay? No counterplay, yeah? That's the most important thing. If you can get a position like this where opponent doesn't have a counterplay, then it's very difficult to play. You might not have a very big advantage, but the fact that opponent doesn't know what to do, it's extremely difficult to sit on a position and just go back and forth. Even very strong grandmasters, they just push something and they just maybe lose even quicker. So it's very, very difficult, even in endgames, just to sit there and just do nothing. Okay? So again, f5, and very important sequence here is rook e6. Would you have played this kind of move in a game?
Yeah.
Sacrificing an exchange? So very famous games, Bronstein, Petrosian, there are many games played like a team like this, where you sacrifice the exchange, but you get a very important square for your piece.
Now,
Okay.
how is sacrificing the exchange there that much better than going e6 to begin with instead of going e7?
Good question, because in this position his bishop is on f8.
Right.
If I go right away, his bishop is on g3, he has a chance to exchange the bishops. And when I go here, I force him to go back first, and then I go here. In a lot of the lines I take on g6 with the check.
And you keep your bishop.
Yeah, and I keep my bishop because I want to have more force to attack him, right? So I want to keep the bishop. That's the idea. Okay? Okay, so again, lots of maneuvering and improving the pieces. And when you play games and you don't see a good plan, try to see if all your pieces placed on the good squares. And look for, yeah, and always use this h4, h5 against the fianchetto structure, okay? Always use h4, h5. Okay, any questions about this game?
How long ago was this?
This is 2010. 2010. Okay, now I want to set up one position and want to discuss this position, okay? This is played by Kasparov. white to play, and this is theme is how to play on open files. Okay, this is a Kasparov game from long time ago, 1977, against Grandmaster Pigusov. So how did white break through in this position? Well, I want you to think for a few minutes at least. Yeah, this is. I don't want to just call out a move. Yeah, I want you. If you call out a move, you just want to make sure you have some follow-up to it too. You don't want to just make a move. Obviously, white is down a pawn, but his pieces are very active. Queen, bishop, rooks. So you have lots of pieces you can attack with. But you need to find that first move and see the follow-up that you have. Okay, after that.
I think he's right.
So what's the first move? Rook f6. Okay. Now, he cannot take because of queen takes pawn checkmate. Okay? So he cannot take. Now, after this move, he can play knight f8, for example, and looks like he's defending his king. What can you do now for white to be able to win this game in 3 moves? Better. Rook g7 might be winning, but you have something better.
Rook takes h6.
Better.
Better.
Queen takes h6.
Excellent.
Oh.
Check.
Oh, yes.
That's the first thing I looked at.
Right.
Because he can't go here, you take and say checkmate. So he has to take, no choice.
And then check.
Then we check, because we force him to take. And then we go checkmate. King is alone. And when opponent king is alone, you look for that sacrifice to be able to break through the defense. So he played knight g5, his opponent. Now, what do you do now? Because it looks like he's blocking now this attack, and now he just wants to take this. Rook takes knight. Now he has 2 options. Take with h pawn, which he did in the game, or take with this pawn. If he takes with this pawn, what do you do? Well, your queen is on e3. h5, threatening queen h6, and mate. So he has to go here. Now we take 1 check. Now he goes here. Think. You don't want to just go check here. You want to think, because he wants to go queen g7, yeah? You can probably win by taking pawn takes pawn here too. But what would be the best move here to actually checkmate? To set up the checkmate.
Wait, I have a question. What's wrong with rook h7?
Well, that's the best move.
Oh.
No, that's the best move. Nothing wrong with it. Now you check. That's the point. He cannot go queen g7 anymore. The king is in a mating net. Okay, so let's look at what happened in the game. So he took this one, this rook. Now, what's the follow-up now? Queen takes pawn. He cannot take with the pawn because of check, check, mate. Okay? So he can't take that. So after queen g5, he played the only move, king g8. Now,
Rook h8. Or h6.
well, you're pinned.
Nothing.
Your rook is pinned. And now looks like he may have survived the strong attack. Queen h4. It's better this way, yeah? To keep the... So now you're threatening to go queen h7. So now, he goes queen a3. Now, what do you do after queen a3? Because he wants to attack your bishop too. He couldn't take because then it's the same checkmate, right? Check. Goes here. His queen is actually blocking, so he cannot escape, okay? So that's why he goes queen a3. And now, after which move you're winning? After which move? Rook. Excellent. Quiet move. See, at the end you make a quiet move. Now, because you're threatening bishop h7 check, that wins his queen. And also you're threatening the queen h7 and queen h8 threat, which is winning the rook. Okay? So rook f3. There is no good defense against two threats. So he goes g6. Continue. Bishop takes g6. Discovery attack on the queen. He takes your piece.
Bishop h7.
Better.
Queen h7.
Correct. King f8.
And then
And then pawn takes. In this case, he cannot capture because we take the rook. Or go queen h8 check. But he cannot even go check from here. Okay? So that's why he resigned after g takes f3. And Kasparov won. Okay, so this is how you attack when you have active pieces and open lines. Okay? So this is an example by world champion Kasparov.